The text message arrived on a Tuesday morning while I was reviewing acquisition proposals for my investment firm. Olivia, sister family meeting Friday 2 p.m. Grandma's will reading. Don't make a scene. Marcus will be there. No, how are you? No, we should talk. Just commands as always. Marcus was her husband, federal judge Marcus Wellington III, a fact she'd mentioned approximately 7,000 times since their wedding 3 years ago. I typed back, I'll be there. Olivia, dress appropriately. This is a legal proceeding. I stared at my phone. I was 32 years old, owned a $47 million private equity firm, and sat on 4 corporate boards. But to my family I was still little Emma, the perpetual disappointment who'd chosen finance over law school, investment banking over the family's preferred path of judiciary connections and country club prestige. Grandma Helen had died 2 weeks earlier at 91. I'd been with her, holding her hand in the hospice room while my sister was at a judicial fundraiser and my parents were on a Mediterranean cruise they refused to cut short. Grandma's last words to me were, "You've always been the smart one, Emma. Don't let them make you forget that." I hadn't cried then. I wouldn't cry now. My relationship with my family had been complicated since I was 16 and refused to attend Yale, their alma mater, choosing instead a state school with a better economics program. "You're throwing away your legacy," my father had said. "You're being selfish," my mother had added. Olivia, 4 years older and already engaged to a law student from a good family, had just shaken her head with pity. I graduated summa cum laude with a double major in economics and mathematics. My family attended graduation but left immediately after, missing the reception where I was awarded the Chancellor's Medal for Academic Excellence. They had a charity gala to attend. At 24 I started my investment firm with $200,000 I'd saved from brutal hours in investment banking. Anderson Capital Management began in a shared office space in downtown Seattle. By 27 we'd grown to $15 million under management. By 30 we'd broken $40 million. Now at 32 we managed $47 million in assets and had a reputation for finding undervalued companies and turning them around. I'd never told my family. They'd never asked. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every obligatory family dinner the conversation was the same. Olivia would discuss Marcus's latest ruling, their vacation to Martha's Vineyard, their new lake house. My parents would beam with pride. Then they'd turn to me with barely concealed disappointment. "Still doing that finance thing?" Dad would ask. "Still unmarried?" Mom would add. "Still renting?" Olivia would smirk. I actually owned a $1.8 million penthouse condo downtown, but I'd learned years ago that correcting them was pointless. They heard what they wanted to hear. They saw what they wanted to see. Grandma Helen was different. She'd built her own commercial real estate empire in the 1960s when women couldn't even get business loans without a man's signature. She'd created a portfolio worth over $80 million through sheer determination and brilliant strategy. She never talked about it at family gatherings, she just watched, listened, and occasionally caught my eye with a knowing look. We'd started having lunch together 5 years ago. She was the only one who asked real questions about my work, who understood what it meant to build something from nothing. She was the only one who knew the truth about my success. "They underestimate you," she'd said last year over tea. "That's your greatest advantage." I'd thought about that a lot since she died. Friday arrived with Seattle's typical November rain. I dressed carefully, navy Armani suit, minimal jewelry, my hair in a professional bun. I looked exactly like what I was, a serious businesswoman, but I knew my family would see what they always saw, disappointing Emma trying too hard. The reading was scheduled for 2 p.m. at the offices of Whitmore and Associates, Grandma's longtime attorneys. The firm occupied the top 3 floors of the Columbia Tower, with panoramic views of Elliott Bay. I'd been there twice before for meetings about the trust structure Grandma and I had established together. I arrived at 1:45 p.m. The reception area was elegant. Dark wood, leather furniture, fresh orchids on every surface. My parents were already there, my mother in Chanel, my father in a custom suit. They barely glanced up from their phones. "Emma," my mother said. "You're early." Traffic was lighter than expected. My father grunted. Conversation over. At 1:58 p.m. Olivia swept in with Marcus. She was in head-to-toe designer wear, her engagement ring catching the light like a small spotlight. Marcus was tall, distinguished, with silver at his temples and the confident bearing of someone who'd never been told no. "Sorry we're late," Olivia announced, though they weren't. Marcus had to finish a conference call with the Ninth Circuit. "Not a problem," the receptionist said smoothly. "Mr. Whitmore is ready for you." We were ushered into a large conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows. Jonathan Whitmore sat at the head of the table. 70 years old, senior partner, one of the most respected estate attorneys in the Pacific Northwest. Next to him was a woman I recognized, Patricia Chin, Grandma's personal attorney and the architect of her trust structure. And next to Patricia was someone I hadn't expected. David Morrison, my own corporate attorney. Olivia's eyes narrowed when she saw David, but she said nothing. We all took seats. My parents and Olivia on one side of the table, Marcus at the end near Jonathan, and me on the other side near David. "Thank you all for coming," Jonathan began. "We're here to review the estate of Helen Margaret Anderson. Before we begin, I want to acknowledge that Helen was not just a client but a friend for over 40 years. Her passing is a loss to us all." My mother dabbed her eyes with a tissue. Olivia nodded solemnly. My father stared out the window. "I thought about Grandma teaching me to play chess at 8 years old. Always think 3 moves ahead, Emma. And never show your opponent what you're really planning." Jonathan opened a leather folder. Helen's estate is substantial and complex. The primary asset is Anderson Real Estate Holdings, currently valued at approximately $83 million. There are also liquid assets, personal property, and several smaller investments. I saw my mother sit up straighter. My father leaned forward. Olivia's hand found Marcus's on the table. "The estate plan Helen created is unusual but legally sound," Jonathan continued. "She established an irrevocable trust 20 years ago, which she modified significantly 5 years ago. The trust controls all assets." "Standard practice," Marcus said, his judge voice carrying natural authority. "Trusts avoid probate, minimize taxes. Smart planning." Jonathan nodded. "Indeed. However, the structure of this particular trust is quite specific. Helen named a chief trustee with full discretionary power over all assets and distributions." "That would be me," my father said confidently. "I'm the eldest child." "Actually, no." Jonathan looked at Patricia, who opened her own folder. "The chief trustee," Patricia said clearly, "is Emma Grace Anderson." The silence was absolute. Then everyone started talking at once. "That's absurd," my mother said. "There must be a mistake," my father insisted. "This can't be legal," Olivia snapped, looking at Marcus. Marcus raised a hand, silencing them. His judicial authority filled the room. "With all due respect, Emma is 32 years old and, as I understand it, works in an entry-level finance position. Surely this represents a conflict of interest or demonstrates questionable judgment on Helen's part." David Morrison cleared his throat. "I'm David Morrison, Ms. Anderson's corporate counsel. For the record, Emma is the founder and CEO of Anderson Capital Management, a registered investment advisory firm managing $47 million in assets. She also serves on the boards of 4 companies, 3 of which are publicly traded. She holds a fiduciary designation and has managed complex trusts for multiple clients. She is eminently qualified." My family stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You said you worked for a finance company," my mother said weakly. "I do," I replied calmly. "I own it." Olivia's face went red. "This is ridiculous. Marcus, tell them this can't stand." But Marcus was looking at me differently now, his judicial mind clearly working. "You're CEO of Anderson Capital Management? The firm that handled the Cascade Tech turnaround?" "Yes." "And you sit on the board of—" He paused, clearly running through mental files. "You're on the Evergreen Medical Board. I saw your name on a filing." "Yes." He sat back and I watched him recalculate everything he thought he knew about me. Patricia continued, her voice professional and precise. "The trust document is explicit. Emma has full authority over asset management, investment decisions and distributions to beneficiaries. The trust provides for annual distributions to Richard and Susan Anderson, that's your parents, of $150,000 each. Olivia, you receive $100,000 annually." "That's it," my mother gasped. "From an $83 million estate?" "The trust prioritizes asset growth and charitable giving," Jonathan explained. However, those distributions are guaranteed for life and inflation adjusted. It's actually quite generous. What about the properties? My father demanded. The commercial buildings? The vacation house in San Juan Islands? All held in trust, Patricia said. Under Emma's management. Olivia stood abruptly. I want to contest this. Marcus, we need to contest this. Marcus's expression was unreadable. On what grounds? On the grounds that it's insane. Olivia's voice rose. She's not qualified. She's never even mentioned having a job that matters. I'm sitting right here, I said quietly. Don't, Olivia snapped. She turned to me, her face contorted with anger. Don't you dare act like you deserve this. You disappeared from this family years ago. You skip holidays you never visit, you barely call. And now you just swoop in and take everything. I didn't take anything, I said, my voice steady. Grandma made these decisions. She modified the trust 5 years ago, after meeting with me extensively about financial planning. She was senile, my mother said desperately. No, Patricia said firmly. I assessed Helen's mental capacity personally, and we had 2 independent physicians evaluate her. She was completely sound. She knew exactly what she was doing. Jonathan pulled out another document. Helen also left personal letters. Emma, this one is for you. He slid an envelope across the table. My name was written on it in Grandma's distinctive handwriting. My hands shook slightly as I opened it. Dearest Emma, if you're reading this, I'm gone and your family is probably having a collective breakdown. Good. They need it. You've spent your entire adult life being underestimated by people who should have celebrated you. I watched them dismiss your achievements, belittle your choices, and treat you like a disappointing afterthought. It broke my heart every single time. I'm making you chief trustee because you're the only one with the wisdom, integrity, and skill to handle this responsibility. But more importantly, I'm doing it because I want them to finally see you. Really see you. You built an empire from nothing while they spent their inheritance and married for prestige. You stayed humble while they bragged. You kept learning while they rested on their credentials. Don't let them bully you. Don't let them make you feel guilty. You earned this through character, not by being born first or by marrying well. Also, there's something they don't know. Something I never told them. Check the trust documents for Anderson Holdings LLC, page 47. I think you'll find it interesting. I love you, sweet girl. Make me proud, which of course you already have. Grandma. I read it twice, my eyes burning. I would not cry in front of them. I would not. What does it say? My father demanded. It's personal. Let me see it. Olivia reached for the letter. I moved it out of reach. No. Patricia was already handing me a thick folder. The complete trust documents. Everything you need is here. I flipped to page 47 of the Anderson Holdings section. What I saw made me stop breathing. Anderson Real Estate Holdings wasn't just a collection of properties. It was the parent company of 16 LLCs, each one owning different commercial properties throughout the Pacific Northwest. And 5 years ago, Grandma had quietly made changes. She'd transferred partial ownership of 12 of those LLCs to me. Not through the trust. Directly. We'd structured them as gifts under the annual exclusion limit, spread across 5 years. Which meant I personally owned 40% of Anderson Real Estate Holdings, completely outside the trust structure. The trust controlled 60%. I controlled 40%. Together, I effectively controlled everything. Page 47, I said slowly. Property ownership breakdown. David leaned over, saw what I was seeing, and I watched him fight to keep his expression neutral. Marcus, with his sharp legal mind, immediately understood something had changed. What's on page 47? The LLC structures, I said. Grandma was very thorough. Jonathan Whitmore allowed himself a small smile. Indeed she was. Helen restructured her holdings 5 years ago with Emma's assistance. The current arrangement is quite elegant. What does that mean? My mother asked. It means, Patricia said, that even if you contested the trust, which you won't win, Emma still controls a significant portion of the assets independently. Helen ensured that Emma's position is unassailable. The room fell silent again. Olivia sank back into her chair. I don't understand. Why would she do this? Because Emma earned it, Jonathan said simply. Helen watched Emma build her own company from nothing. She recognized talent, determination, and integrity. She chose to reward that. My father's face was red. This is a betrayal. After everything we did for her. You did nothing for her, I said, and my voice came out harder than I intended. She built her empire herself in the 1960s. She survived a husband who tried to steal her company. She outlasted competitors who tried to crush her. She didn't need your help, you needed hers. How dare you, my mother whispered. It's the truth. I looked at each of them. Grandma gave you distributions your entire lives. She paid for your education, your weddings, your house down payments. And you treated her like an obligation. When was the last time any of you visited her? Really visited, not just showing up for birthday checks. No one answered. I had lunch with her every Wednesday for 5 years, I continued. I was there when she was diagnosed with cancer. I was there through her chemotherapy. I was holding her hand when she died. Where were you? We were, my mother started. On a cruise, I finished. That you didn't cut short. Even when hospice called and said she had days left. My mother's face crumpled. My father looked away. Olivia stared at the table. Marcus cleared his throat. This is clearly an emotional situation. Perhaps we should reconvene. No, Olivia said. Her voice was different now, smaller, harder. I want to know something, Emma. Did you manipulate an elderly woman for money? The accusation hung in the air like poison. David started to respond, but I put a hand on his arm. I helped Grandma structure her estate to reflect her values. Family support but not dependence. Charitable giving. Strategic property management. Everything was her idea. I just provided the financial expertise. Convenient, Olivia sneered. And now you're rich. I was already doing fine, I said. My company generates about $2.8 million in annual revenue. I didn't need Grandma's money. Olivia laughed. A harsh, ugly sound. Oh, so now you're a millionaire? Next you'll tell us you're dating a celebrity. I'm not dating anyone. I've been too busy actually working. Doing what? My father challenged. What do you actually do at this company you supposedly run? I identify undervalued companies, usually family-owned businesses in transition. We acquire controlling interest, restructure operations, improve financial systems and grow them. Then we either hold for cash flow or sell at a profit. Last year we sold a manufacturing company for $8.3 million that we'd purchased for $2.1 million 3 years earlier. The number silenced them. Marcus was watching me with something that looked like respect. That's the Cascade Tech deal. You took a failing semiconductor company and turned it around. That was impressive work. Thank you. Why didn't you ever tell us? My mother asked, and for the first time she sounded genuinely hurt rather than angry. Would you have listened? I met her eyes. Every time I tried to talk about my work you changed the subject. Every achievement I mentioned you dismissed. You stopped asking about my life, so I stopped sharing it. Patricia Chin checked her watch. I have another appointment, but before I go I want to clarify Emma's authority. As chief trustee she controls all trust assets, makes all investment decisions and determines distribution amounts, within the parameters Helen established. She cannot be removed except for gross negligence or criminal activity, and even then, only by a unanimous vote of the 3 subordinate trustees, which are. She checked her notes, Jonathan Whitmore, myself and David Morrison. 3 people who work for Emma, Olivia said bitterly. 3 people who work for the trust, Patricia corrected. And who have fiduciary duties that supersede any personal relationships. We take those responsibilities seriously. Jonathan stood, signaling the meeting was ending. The annual distribution checks will be issued next month. Emma will schedule quarterly meetings to review trust performance. If you have questions about the trust administration, you can contact her office directly. Her office, my father repeated numbly. Anderson Capital Management, David provided. We're in the Rainier Tower, floor 32. Emma's assistant can schedule appointments. We all stood. My parents moved like sleepwalkers toward the door. Olivia hung back, Marcus beside her. This isn't over, Olivia said quietly. You can't just steal a family legacy. I didn't steal anything, I replied. I was given responsibility by someone who trusted me. That's not theft, That's succession planning. Marcus put a hand on Olivia's arm. We should go. But Olivia pulled away from him, stepping closer to me. You think you're so smart, don't you? With your company and your suit and your important-sounding job. But you're still just little Emma, the family disappointment who couldn't even get into Yale. I didn't want Yale, I said. I wanted to build something real. And I did. You manipulated a dying woman. That's enough, Marcus said firmly. His judicial voice. Olivia, that's an accusation you can't prove and shouldn't make. The trust documents are legal. The transfers were documented. Emma's qualifications are legitimate. This is over. Olivia looked at her husband in shock, betrayed. Then she looked back at me, and what I saw in her eyes was something I'd never seen before. Fear. Not of me exactly, but of what I represented. The realization that the family hierarchy she'd relied on her entire life had just inverted. She turned and walked out without another word. Marcus paused at the door. For what it's worth, Emma, I'm sorry. We should have paid more attention. Then he followed his wife. When the room cleared, I sat back down heavily. Jonathan, Patricia, and David remained. That went about as well as expected, Jonathan said dryly. Helen predicted every reaction, Patricia added. She said your father would appeal to primogeniture, your mother would cry, and your sister would threaten legal action through her husband. She knew them well. She knew you better, Jonathan said. She told me 5 years ago that you were the only one with the intelligence and integrity to handle this. She was right. David pulled out his laptop. We should discuss next steps. The trust needs active management, and you've got decisions to make. For the next hour we reviewed the trust structure. The $83 million in real estate assets generated approximately $6.2 million in annual net operating income. After the family distributions and operating costs, that left roughly $4.8 million annually for reinvestment and charitable giving. Grandma had specified that at least 15% of annual trust income go to charities supporting women in business, education access, and cancer research. That was $930,000 per year minimum. She's essentially turned you into a private foundation manager, Patricia observed. Plus a real estate portfolio manager. Plus your own company. You're going to be very busy. I can handle it. I know you can. That's why Helen chose you. Patricia closed her folder. One more thing. Helen left specific instructions about her personal property. There are some items she wanted you to have. They're at the house. The San Juan house? No. Her house. The original one. I looked up sharply. The Magnolia house. I thought she sold that years ago. Patricia shook her head. She never sold it. She let your family believe she did, but she kept it. It's held in one of the LLCs you now partially own. She's been living in the guest house for the past 2 years, actually. The main house has been empty, waiting. Waiting for what? Patricia smiled. She said you'd know when you saw it. The Magnolia house sat on a bluff overlooking Puget Sound, a sprawling 1920s craftsman with views that stretched to the Olympic Mountains. I'd spent summers there as a child before Grandma supposedly downsized to a condo. Patricia met me there Saturday morning with keys. The house was exactly as I remembered, dark wood beams, built-in bookshelves, window seats overlooking the water. But it had been updated. New kitchen, renovated bathrooms, fresh paint. It was move-in ready. She prepared it for you, Patricia said. Spent the last year making sure it was perfect. In the study there was a desk with an envelope on it. Another letter. Emma. This house holds my best memories. Your grandfather and I raised our children here. You learned to read in the window seat overlooking the garden. This house represents everything I built and everything I believed in. Roots, family, legacy. But family isn't just blood. It's people who see you, who believe in you, who celebrate your successes instead of resenting them. Your real family might be the friends you've made, the mentors who guided you, the team you've built at your company. This house is yours. Truly yours, not held in trust. I transferred the title 3 months ago. It's my gift to you for being exactly who you are. Live here. Build your life here. Fill it with people who deserve you. And Emma, forgive them if you can. Not because they deserve it, but because holding on to anger will only hurt you. They're flawed people who made mistakes. Don't let their mistakes define your future. But don't forget who you are either. You're the girl who graduated summa cum laude. who built a company from nothing, who sat with a dying woman because it was the right thing to do. You're not the family disappointment. You never were. You were always the success story. They just couldn't see it. All my love, Grandma. I walked through the empty rooms, imagining them filled with furniture, with life, with the future I'd been too busy to plan for. The house was worth at least $2.3 million, maybe more with the view and the location. Grandma had given me everything, not just money and property but validation, recognition, the acknowledgement I'd spent 15 years pretending I didn't need. I stood in the study looking out at the sound and finally let myself cry. Monday morning I arrived at my office to find 17 missed calls from my family. I didn't return them. Tuesday my mother showed up at my office. My assistant Rachel called to warn me. Your mother is here. Is persistent. Give me 5 minutes, then send her in. When my mother entered she looked smaller somehow. Older. She sat across from my desk, the same desk where I'd negotiated million-dollar deals, and folded her hands. I've been thinking about what you said, she began. About not visiting Grandma. About not asking about your life. I waited. You were right. We stopped paying attention. We made assumptions. She paused. I'm sorry, Emma. I'm sorry we didn't see what you'd accomplished. I'm sorry we weren't there when you needed us. It was the apology I'd wanted for years. But it came too late and felt too calculated. Thank you for saying that. Can we, she hesitated. Can we start over? Can we try to be a real family? I don't know, I said honestly. I want to believe that's possible. But it's going to take time. And it's going to require actual change, not just words. She nodded, tears in her eyes. Will you at least come to Thanksgiving? No expectations, no pressure. Just come. I thought about Grandma's letter. Forgive them if you can. I'll come, I said. But I'm bringing my team from work. They're my family too. My mother flinched but nodded. Of course. We'd love to meet them. After she left, I sat at my desk looking at the photo on my bookshelf. Grandma and me at my college graduation, both of us beaming. She'd driven 5 hours to be there when my parents left early. My phone buzzed. A text from Olivia. Marcus says I owe you an apology. He's right. I'm sorry. I was awful. I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. Accepted. But this is going to take time. Her response came immediately. I understand. 3 months later, I stood in front of the first annual Anderson Family Foundation grant ceremony. We'd awarded $930,000 to 15 organizations supporting women entrepreneurs, first-generation college students, and cancer research. My parents were in the audience. Olivia and Marcus too. They'd attended every quarterly trust meeting, asked intelligent questions, and, slowly, started treating me like the professional I was. It wasn't perfect. We weren't a Hallmark movie family. But we were trying. The Magnolia House was now fully furnished. I'd hosted Thanksgiving there, Christmas too. My team from Anderson Capital had blended with my awkward family gatherings, filling the rooms with laughter and actual conversation. David Morrison, Patricia Chin, and Jonathan Whitmore had become not just my advisors but my friends. The people Grandma knew I'd need to navigate this new reality. And every Wednesday I visited Grandma's grave with fresh flowers and told her about the week. About the trust performance, the companies we'd acquired, the grants we'd awarded. About the slow, painful, hopeful process of rebuilding family relationships. But mostly I thanked her. For seeing me when no one else did. For believing in me when I barely believed in myself. For teaching me that success isn't about proving others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. The trust is now worth $89 million and growing. Anderson Capital Management manages $63 million in assets. I sit on 6 boards and mentor 3 young women starting their own investment firms. My family collects their distributions, attends foundation events, and has stopped referring to my work as that finance thing. They call me Emma now, not little Emma. They ask real questions and listen to the answers. It's not everything I wanted. But it's more than I expected. And every time I look at the title of Chief Trustee on legal documents, or walk through the Magnolia House, or make a decision about Grandma's legacy, I hear her voice. You've always been the smart one, Emma. Don't let them make you forget that. I never will, Grandma. I never will.